I received the logbook for the Aston Martin the other day, and it turns out I'm the second owner. And to be honest, I think that was a bit of a relief for the Aston because the previous owner did this to it. Then you guys have been watching me over the past few months rebuild this thing, source parts for this thing, and then finally get it back on the road. But today we're going to find out how good of a job I actually did because Aston Martin are about to assess it. What a build this has been. I've thoroughly enjoyed all of it. But today we find out whether I did everything properly. This has got to be the best all-round car that I have ever owned. And so it should be. This is basically a £100,000 car, and it only cost me just under £17,000 to repair it. But how much did it cost you to buy the car? Well, you'll have to go back and watch the first video for that, or just click in the top right-hand corner. Now, despite the car costing around £17,000 to repair, I reckon we could have done this a lot cheaper. But we bought a lot of unnecessary parts like the carbon fibre wing mirrors, the carbon fibre wings, and these huge bonnet vents. But it looks awesome. But there is one thing missing off this list, and it's something that I do to all the crash damaged cars that I buy before I take them out on the road. And that thing is servicing them, and that can actually be quite an expense. But luckily, I don't actually have to pay for this or do this myself on the Aston Martin. Now, if you guys remember when we was replacing the dashboard, we went to Aston Martin to pick up the passenger side airbag. And whilst we were there, they mentioned that this car was bought with a service plan. And that service plan stays with the car. And it's only had one service so far, so we'll be taking it for its next one for free. So not only are Aston Martin going to be checking over my repairs, we're also going to be getting a service, which is technically free. But before we head there is one more addition that I've been dying to do to the Aston Martin ever since I put it all back together. And that is to get rid of this tremendous arch gap. Hello! Yes, the Aston sits pretty high, but that's not to say it rides bad, it just doesn't look great that high. But I have a solution to that, and it's inside this box here. Now these are KW adjustable springs, and these are going to sit on the standard dampers. That means we can kind of get the best of both worlds. We still have the adaptive damping system that we control by the little button on the steering wheel on the Aston, but also we have adjustable ride height, which we can do using this little C-spanner. I've got to be at Aston Martin at 8:30 tomorrow morning, and now the time is 7 o'clock in the evening. We better get these fitted. I'm not sure how hard this is going to be, as I've never done one before, but looking at it with the wheel off, it doesn't look too difficult. The whole damper and spring just sits by itself and is attached to the lower arm with one bolt. And then there's just the bolts on the top mount. So first thing I'm going to undo is the bolt connecting the damper to the lower arm at the bottom. And once that's undone, I can lower the car down and start undoing the top mount bolts. There's of course an electrical connector for the damper which controls the stiffness of it. I've got to unplug that, and to get to all the top mount bolts I've got to undo the strut brace just enough so I can get my ratchet underneath it. And then I could try and wiggle out the strut, but it didn't seem like it was going to come out. But now all of you can see the new Aston Martin Vantage tee which I'm wearing, which we've made limited numbers of. The link's in the description for one of them. So with me not being able to get the strut out just by undoing those few bolts, I'm going to start by undoing the upper wishbone, which is held in by 2 bolts. With that out of the way, I should be able to lift the strut clear. And I could. And with the strut and the spring off the car, I've then got to get the top mount off. And I can't just use a normal ratchet because this wire with the electrical connector on was in the way. So I'm going to have to use a swan neck spanner to get inside the bolt which is in the top mount and undo it. The problem is my swan neck spanner wasn't thin enough, so I had to make a few modifications to my tools here. After I've made a few modifications to my swan neck spanner, I can then use the spring compressor to of course compress the spring, making it then safe for me to undo the top mount with my newly adjusted swan neck spanner. All of this work was getting me pretty hungry, so I headed over to my fridge to grab a Y food. Today's sponsor of the video. As it was late in the evening, my only option was fast food or a Y food. I think I chose the right option here. Now, a lot of us are guilty of it. When you're constantly on the go, you end up grabbing something to eat which isn't the healthiest. And that's why Y food is the perfect alternative to that. Now, this shake is a meal replacement drink. It's not a diet drink, it's not a protein shake, it simply just replaces your meal. On top of that, it includes 26 vitamins and minerals. It's high in fiber, high in protein, it's lactose free, it's gluten free, and there's no added sugar. Not only that, they have loads of different flavors to choose from. Inside my fridge, I've got apple cinnamon, smooth vanilla, and even funky peanut. There's also vegan options, and this bottle is 100% recyclable. There really isn't a bad word I can say about Y food. I've been using and drinking these for so long now, and if you want to find your favorite flavor, you can do by using the link in the description box below. And with help from this banner appearing underneath me right now, you're going to save yourself a nice bit of cash as well. Thank me later, and thanks Y food. Continuing on with the front suspension. To get all the new KW kit on, I've got to knock the standard spring seat off the damper. Once I've done that, I've then got this adjustable spring seat to pop on the damper, and then I can start building it back up again. First off goes the new spring, which is a lot shorter than the standard one. Then goes a dust cover, a shortened bump stop, another spring seat, a helper spring, another spring seat, and the top mount. And then the old top mount bolt, tightened up with my newly adjusted swan neck spanner. And then we're ready to mount it all back up to the car. We have to do a massive shout out to DTB Motorsport for getting me these KW springs, as he managed to get me them at quite a nice price. Cheers, Dave. Now, of course, refitting them is just exactly the same as taking them apart, but in reverse. Making sure when we tighten all the bolts up, we preload the suspension to save any unnecessary wear to those bushes. And there we go, one front done. Moving on to the rear. The rear suspension is pretty similar to the front suspension. The spring sits on the damper just like the front. There's one bolt holding the damper to the car at the bottom just like the front as well. I'm going to have to remove a drop link just to move it out the way. And to get to the top mount bolts, I've got to open the boot, remove a little bit of carpet out the way, and then I can then access the 3 bolts, which are of course the top mount bolts. Not forgetting to undo the electrical connector first. With the top mounts undone, I can pull the strut away from the car, and me and Liam can start building up the rear suspension with the new KW adjustable springs. Job done there, time to reassemble. Right, the springs, the adjustable KW springs are on. They're looking mint. We don't really know exactly what the height is going to be just yet, but we've got them on the absolute lowest setting. Hopefully we can get off the ramp. Now, I am aware the standard wheels do sit pretty far inside the arch, so we have a solution. Now, if you've watched the previous builds, I normally change the alloys, but with these alloys being so lightweight and the tyres being specially made for the Aston Martin ones, I feel like and they look good as well. I'm keeping them, but as I mentioned, they sit pretty far inside the arch, and Aston Martin have a strange wheel PCD, so I couldn't buy spacers just off the internet. Now, Wheelmania, although they haven't provided us wheels for this build, they have provided us with a solution, and that solution is wheel spacers, because I could not find them anywhere. 5x128, I think the PCD was for these Aston Martins. So if I'm right in saying I'm probably the only person to own wheel spacers with this size on. Only Aston Martin, specially made from Wheelmania. Let's get these on, and we'll see what they look like when this car's lowered down and wide. Let's do it. Who would have thought it? Not only have Wheelmania provided me with some amazing wheels in the past, they're now making the stock wheels look even better than before with these hub-centric spacers. These spacers bolt onto the actual hub, and you may notice that the bolts are protruding, but they should sit nicely inside the cutouts on the back of the standard Aston Martin wheel. Now, I can't quite remember the exact size I told Wheelmania to do these wheel spacers, but if one of you guys are watching and have got an Aston Martin exactly like mine, feel free to contact them with the link in the description. Okay, we're just going down now. Wheel spacers are on, coilovers are on. Is it going to be on the floor, or is it going to be a nice, respectable height? Here we go. I feel like the ramp is... I feel like it's going to be stuck in the ramp. Oh! Oh! Is it stuck on the ramp? I feel like the ramp's holding it up. I think the ramp's holding it up. But those back wheels... Jeez! The ramp's holding it up, so it could go even lower than that. That's looking absolutely banging on the front. We don't want to be rubbing though. We want nice fitment. So do we need to go on wood and then go back again? Yeah. I think that's perfect right now. That is literally perfect. I think I've got enough clearance there. Might just be alright. Yeah. But they've still got to settle in. They have still got to settle in. That is looking absolutely fantastic. Sensational stuff, and you know it's good because right now this did take way longer than expected. It is 1:30 in the morning, and at 8:30 we've got to be at Aston Martin in the morning. Let's go. So, the springs. After putting them on and then driving them out, they rode, I'm going to be honest, horrendous. The problem is with the adjustable springs on the standard shocks, as soon as you go a little bit lower, you lose a lot of play in that damper. So it almost felt as if I was running on the bump stop. So now, it is lower, but it's enough that it doesn't break my back. And yeah, any more lower, I think... yeah, you're just on the bump stops, but I still think now, with those spaces and that ride height, that is perfect. Let's head into Aston Martin. Here we go. It's Judgment Day. This is Jake, and Jake is the service advisor at Aston Martin. We have to thank Jake already because he's been helping me throughout this Aston Martin build. And to be honest, all of Aston Martin have been great during this build, even if they didn't sell me some of the parts that I needed. I don't know, maybe they were just jealous that I didn't buy my car at list price. But hey, here it is, my crash damaged Aston Martin Vantage inside Aston Martin Nottingham main dealer. Who would have thought it? This workshop is immaculate. We've got James the technician taking care of my Vantage today, and he's also going to be inspecting some of my repairs. But first off, we're onto the service and we're going to be removing the air filters. He's already got the new filters set aside, and you can see here my old ones are pretty discoloured and worn. But I think so far James was pretty impressed with the rebuild and even gave me a compliment.
Amazing. Really, in all honesty.
Oh, thanks, but the compliment was quickly dismissed when he noticed I was missing some rubber mounts for the top of my radiator. So that's what those things were sitting on my toolbox for the past couple of weeks. But hey, we can't all be perfect. After the air filters were in, James put the car up in these really posh ramps and started checking over more of it. And then moved on to removing the oil filter, which for once on the Aston Martin was in a really clever place, right at the bottom of the engine where it should be. And with the oil filter removed, he then can begin to remove the drain plug to drain all the oil out the engine. Whilst doing the inspection, he noticed I was missing a little rubber stop, which was on the boot, which is apparently pretty common, and I wouldn't have even noticed that. But he said those little rubber stops are £5 each from Aston Martin. And with the new oil filter in and the drain plug tightened up, James then started filling the engine with oil using this pretty cool machine here, which you can type in how many litres wants to go into the engine and get it exactly right. After that, he plugged in his diagnostic tool and ran the car for fault codes. Have we just got any, is there any?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Wow. Wow.
Near at the bottom. Nothing's back.
Brilliant.
You actually fixed the car.
Would you believe it? No fault codes using the genuine Aston Martin computer.
All in all,
it was all
it's
good.
not a bad car at all.
And you heard it there, an Aston Martin technician giving it the approval. I'm completely gobsmacked. Who would have thought it? But now we've got more jobs to get on with. So with the service and the health check done, and we have the wheel spacers and the lowering springs on as well, it's only right whilst we're here to get this on the four-wheel alignment, because we would have completely put out the whole wheel alignment of the car by lowering it and making it wider. But they have mentioned that this is set up for a standard Vantage, but they'll do their best. So we're going to sort out the camber, the alignment and everything. But so far, so good. This is really cool. To get this to be as accurate as possible, you need a full tank of fuel and 37.5 kilos in each seat in the car. That way, when James does the alignment, the car should be set up perfectly for when a driver and passenger are sat in the car. It's crazy the little details Aston Martin take. And it's definitely a good job we're doing this, because after the computer took the readings, you can see the wheel alignment was completely out. But that's unsurprising. This car was in a pretty bad knock. Another thing I wasn't quite satisfied about was my panel alignment. I couldn't work out whether it was too big or too small. So James told me to go and have a look around the showroom and check out the Aston Martins that they had there. And if I'm perfectly honest, I think my panel gap was better than some of the ones in the showroom. The panel line on this satin grey one looked really close towards the front wheel, but then opens up more towards the headlight. But I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit picky. And speaking of picky, Hannah went into the spec room where you can choose pretty much everything from colours to leather types and anything in between that you want when ordering a brand new Aston Martin. And turns out you can pretty much have any colour with any finish. So maybe my satin red wrap isn't as unique as I first thought. And whilst we were faffing around in the showroom, James was hard at work trying to get the alignment perfect. And it seems he was making some leeway, because here's my printout. Everything gone from all red pretty much to now all green and pointing in a straight line, exactly how we like it. Then it's just up to James to take it out, take it for a test run and make sure it was driving all well and good. So the tracking is done now and the car is driving straight, and we're just in for the final, well, it would have been the final thing, but the tyres could be an issue. But right now, the aircon needs regassing. The amount of times I've had this front end off and back on again, and obviously I've not regassed the aircon, and we're at the right place to do it. So James is going to crack on with that before finally finishing the Aston Martin off. So with this shortly going on a road trip in the Aston Martin, aircon is a must. But all was looking well. And Aston Martin have been great, even if I did buy a crash damaged one. These are the only things that came back on the report. There was small damage on the offside front wheel, there was some rusting on the exhaust tips, there was a front number plate plinth missing, very minor, and of course those radiator rubbers were missing. But other than that, look at all those green ticks. Can I call myself a mechanic yet? We did have a few ambers at the back, but those were for the tyres. I definitely need to replace them. And there she is, wheel aligned and aircon gassed, with approval now from Aston Martin. Wicked.
So full alignment, service covered under the service plan,
Yeah.
air conditioning regas.
Perfect.
So total of 562 and 80. So in this pack you've got a copy of the service sheet from today.
Yeah.
We've also got another copy of the four-wheel alignment sheet and a copy of the visual health check. But
Yeah.
nothing requires any immediate attention, which is
We're all good.
All good news.
It's shocking more
Did
than
you get that bit on
anything.
camera? Wicked.
Thanks very much then, Matt.
Right, thanks
Cheers.
for that. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers.
everyone.
See you later.
Cheers.
See you
Thanks,
later.
James.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.
See ya.
So there it is, the Aston Martin has been checked over by Aston Martin and we've got the all clear. A few little things here and there, but now we've got aircon, forward alignment, we're a little bit lower, we're a little bit wider, and more importantly, we have the service stamp from Aston Martin as well. We are going to be going on a road trip in the Aston Martin next week, but not before a few more modifications, so stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.
Like a drug that